Hello everyone. Thanks for joining my channel. Gonna get right into it. The power expectations. What does that mean when you say the power of expectations? I'm gonna talk about this book. It's called The Other Westmore. Now I didn't read it, but I watched a lecture of his and give you a brief summary of it. The Other Westmore, it was two Westmores in Baltimore. They grew up in the same neighborhood. One of them ended up getting a scholarship and going on and doing a lot of wonderful things. And the other one ended up spending a life in prison because he robbed a jewelry store and ended up killing an undercover. Not undercover, but an off-duty police officer or something to that effect. Now that's just a real brief summary. So don't hold me to all the accuracy, but this is the gist of is one of them landed on one side of the coin and one of them landed on the other side of the coin. And I want to tie it into this notion of power of expectation. So the author, which is Westmore number one, he asked the other Westmore that was in prison, he said, so do you think we are products of our environment? And the imprisoned Westmore said, no, I think we are products of our expectations. And I think the imprisoned Westmore was very correct with that assessment. So this is why when I talk about the power of pursuing your purpose, feeling empowered, this personal governance in terms of we are in the driver's seat of our lives. But guess what happens when you feel like a victim, a perpetual victim? When you feel powerless, when you feel like you have no control of your circumstances, when you always are operating out of desperation and you always are blindsided by crisis. You don't have time to think ahead. You don't have time to plan ahead. And you don't really give yourself the credit and the confidence that you definitely need. Product of our expectations. And a lot of times, who helps instill these expectations in us? So, without getting into all the different grimy details of, I came up single mom, 7 children in the home. Some would say, and I would say, not in the most favorable circumstances. And I know a lot of us are coming from some very unfavorable circumstances. So my thing is, a lot of people have told you, they've held low opinions of you. A lot of people have told you, you can't do this. You're not smart enough. You're not bright enough. You're not special enough. You're not gifted enough. And sadly, we honor the opinions of others. If mom said I couldn't be nothing, if my friends say, oh man, you can't do that. You can't be the next Les Brown. You can't be the next Luther Vandross. Then guess what? A lot of times we honor that. And even if we say, oh, I can't, or then we'll blow it off. Oh, I'm just playing, No, but you're serious. You seriously want to be something phenomenal. You seriously want to honor your purpose. You want to be that business consultant. You want to be that surgeon. You want to be, and so what you in your 40s? I got a friend of mine named Lorraine. She was telling me about a guy that she was cool with. And she said, he used to blow mad trees and used to kick it all the time. And she said she was talking on the phone one day. He said, man, I'm just tired of this. I'm tired of this aimlessness. And she's like, what you mean? He's like, I want to be a doctor. And I believe he's like 39 at the time. And, she said she didn't think none of it, blah, blah, blah. And then, anybody that's 40 plus, y'all know how them years start rolling by. You know how them decades start rolling by faster and faster. Then she said one day when she ended up having to go to the hospital or whatever, and guess what? Guess who the doctor was? 10 years or so later, he was actually a resident. So he actually acted on it. He actually got tired of having a low expectation of himself. So I'm asking you today, what's your expectation in yourself? What do you expect of your children? What do you expect of your friends? What do you expect of your social circle? Are you expecting enough? Because a lot of times we live up to our expectations. So often, if we have low expectations, if we expect to die young, sadly for so many of us, so many of these fallen soldiers out here, we die young. We don't plan living. I was one of those people that was very fortunate. And I always give credit to God because I didn't think I would live past 25 years old. I was living reckless. I was living a very aimless life, seeking the joys of, woman crazy, chasing after the ladies, chasing after the fast life, chasing after the fun. So a lot of times when I'm speaking and stuff, sometimes people may be thinking that I'm looking down my nose and I'm all snobby and stuck up. No, I've been that knucklehead. I've been that aimless spirit. And that's why I know how important it is that if we don't look at ourselves differently, if we don't raise the expectations of ourselves, who gonna do it? If you aren't willing to say, you know what, I can be better, I can do better, without the excuses, is it gonna be difficult? Absolutely. Guess what? A lot of times we worry about, man, I'm gonna have to try to convince my best friend or my girlfriend or whoever my significant other is. But guess what? The key person that you got to convince is yourself. It's the man or woman in the mirror. Convince yourself that you can be and do more. And tell yourself that I owe it to the world to make the most of myself. Because think about it. When you make the most of yourself, how much better are you going to be to your significant other? How much better are you going to be for your children, for your family and friends? How much more can you give them? And I'm not just talking about money, because we always want to measure things. We always want to use money as the key metric. But think about it. How can you help your kids with their homework if you're barely literate yourself? If you have a difficult time reading, if you don't know how to do linear algebra or trigonometry, geometry, how can you help your kids with your homework if you don't know how to do it yourself? How can we help them make better decisions, practical decisions? Think about that. And if you think about it and really think about it and say, you know what? He made a good point. But more important than making a good point, I want you to make it a point to raise the expectations of your life, because it's powerful. When you look in the mirror and said, I haven't done enough. Look at how many opportunities I've wasted. And to tie back into what I was saying about that book called The Other Westmore, the imprisoned Westmore said, man, I've wasted every opportunity I had. Think about that. I've wasted every opportunity I've had. I ask you, do you want to be that person? Unfortunately for him, the chapter, his life is written out. I mean, yes, he still has value. He still has life, and other people can learn. But we have to decide, what are you expecting of yourself? What's your expectation? Are you going to be a model so that other people can follow? Like, man, I want to be like him. I want to be like her. She pulled herself together. Or are you going to be an example of what not to be? Are people going to be talking about you? Or are you going to be some cautionary tale? Are you going to be something, one of the characters that I write under my pen name? When I write up under Heat Anthony, often I write about cautionary tales. I write about those dark, desperate people who don't always make the best decisions, because a lot of times they don't know better, so they can't do better. So part of even checking out this channel and checking out other people, check out other thought leaders. By all means, read, bump up against ideals. And guess what? Some people are going to say things that's going to tick you off. People going to say things that you totally disagree with. They're going to say, what you mean? If I change, you act like if I change my mind today, my life going to change tomorrow. Guess what? It's not going to change instantly, but the feeling that you got, the empowerment, how empowering it is to know that by thinking different, you can change the way your ship sails. You can change the direction of your life. Like I said, it's going to require work. It's going to require that you have enough intestinal fortitude to walk the way that you know that you're capable of walking. Because a lot of us, we want to hang with the crowd. We want to satisfy everybody else. But often we following the follower. Oh no, think about it. Think about the cool dude. He was super cool. He had all the girls. He had the six pack, had the wife beater, had the tattoos. In high school, he was a man. All the ladies went crazy. Now, and I'm thinking about real life examples. Had a couple guys that I went to school with, and one guy wrestled state. He was real cool. He was a man. And I was like, oh man, he's just always so cool. He always knew what to say, knew what to wear. And I seen him at the gas station one day, and I looked at him and said, hey, what's up, man? He said, hey, what's up, man? He said, you got spare change? Blew my mind. Now that was fast forwarded from 20 years, versus us being in school and him being Captain Cool, and now literally panhandling, addicted on drugs. Did he live up to his expectations? Did he have any high expectations to live up to? And so that's what I'm asking of you. What's your expectations of your life? Are you willing to raise them? If not, why? Who do you love? Who matters to you? Are they worth it? Are they worth you giving yourself a chance and saying, you know what? I can do this. If you want to be a singer, go for it. If you want to be a surgeon, go for it. If you want to be an unconventional thought leader, go for it. Because even though I don't have a bunch of connections, but I know by thinking, you know what? I'm going to get those connections. I'm going to leverage what I do got to get and access what I don't have. No longer am I going to imprison myself and self-limit myself. Often we limit ourselves. We tell ourselves, oh, I can't do that. Why me? Oh, I don't know enough. I don't know enough people. I don't have enough money. There's no way I can do it. So what do? We limit. We say, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and get a job and be a manager at a gas station. I'm going to go ahead and instead of being a surgeon, I'm going to be an LPN. Nothing's wrong with these things if that's what you aspire to be. But if you know that you're not honoring your potential, if you know that you are not living up and doing the absolute best that you can be, if you're being a dishwasher when you know you can be a doctor, how much satisfaction are you going to have? If you're operating under capacity, why? What's your biggest fear? Because a lot of us, we fear of falling out of favor with our closest friends. We fear of not being popular. We fear people not liking us, people feeling like we change. And guess what? Sometimes it's not just about change. Sometimes you just age out. Sometimes you just grow up. Sometimes you don't want to talk about the same things that you've been talking about the last 15 years. And that's going to happen. I experienced that myself when I would go different places and people were doing the same thing. Sometimes they was even wearing the same outfits from 7, 8 years ago with the exact same vocabulary, the exact same thing, talking about big bouncing backsides, talking about how bad she is, how bad that is. And it's not that I'm perfect, but it's like, man, I want some elevation. I want to talk about something different. I want to talk about different vacation spots. The Canary Islands, Dubai. I want to talk about not only seeing the world, but changing the world. But I realized that the best way of changing the world is to change myself. It's to start focusing on what I can do. Because too often we get bogged down in details. We get bogged down in discussions and gossip. of things that we have no control over. But we have control over what we think. We have control over how we engineer our expectations, how we engineer our minds, how we organize our efforts. Are you willing to take a chance on yourself? This is one of the few times in life where somebody's not trying to sell you something, not trying to sell you, the latest, greatest sports shoes or sportswear, not trying to sell you something so you can make X amount of dollars through some kind of internet, strategy or digital marketing. I'm just asking you to look into yourself and say, are you doing your absolute best to be your absolute best? Are you willing to raise your expectations? Because sadly, too many of us are living up to our low expectations. Are you going to leave a legacy of decency for your children, for your grandchildren? Are you going to get out here and really live it up? Not exist. That's one of my biggest fears. Existing. Going day after day, knowing the same thing, having the same conversations, standing still, making no progression, making no progress whatsoever. That's my fear, existing. How about a little bit of adventure? Take some risks. Yes, you're going to fail. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. Yes, you're going to be criticized. Yes, other people are going to talk their mess. Other people are going to throw in their cap of criticism. That's going to happen. So what? Guess what? Even if you do nothing, people going to have something to say anyway. So if you go ahead and say, man, you know what? I'm about to get on. I'm about to be this. I'm about to be the next, DJ Envy, Charlemagne the God. Guess what? People going to criticize that. And guess what? You sit on the couch and be a couch potato and smoke like a broken stove. Guess what? They're going to criticize that too. So no matter what you do, somebody going to find a way and find a will to criticize you, to be a troll, to be an expert on your life. Somebody's always going to say, well, you should do this and you should do that. But I'm just asking you, what do you think you should do? Are you happy with what you're doing? And if you're not happy with what you're doing, are you willing to do something else? Are you willing to do something about it today? What action can you take today that's going to change your tomorrow? And I always like to get to that point where I say it's not just about thought. Because it's a lot of great thinkers out here. But a lot of times they fail to act. So once you think, and if you answer those things, you say, man, I'm not happy with the life I've been leading. I'm not happy with the expectations I accept for myself. If you're not happy with that, what are you going to do? Are you going to raise your expectations? And what does that look like? What does that mean? So that means if you're sitting around 440 pounds, you say, man, I'm not going to just sit around here and die of diabetes. I'm not going to sit around here and have a stroke. I'm going to get up like my dude, Possible Pat. Start walking to Walmart. When I get hungry, I'm going to walk to the store to get something to eat. And I'm going to get healthy food. I'm not going to walk there and get Skittles and Reese's and all that other stuff. I'm not going to be seduced by the not sorry commercials. So you have to ask yourself, are you going to raise your expectations? Are you going to go for that raise? Are you going to go for that promotion? Are you going to step out on faith and say, you know what? I'm going to start my business. I'm going to start doing hair. I'm going to start selling this. I'm going to start, restoring different items, selling stuff on eBay. Whatever it is, only you know your deepest talent. You know your deepest fears, and only you can overcome them. So write down what's your key fear. What's stopping you from becoming a better you today? Write it down. Is it fear? Is it the lack of money? Is it the lack of confidence? And then ask yourself. Then write down, What action can I do? What one thing can I do? You know, if you're dealing with your weight, that's a big issue. Go for it. I always bring that up because that's something that I use. So once I started my channel, I said, you know what? I'm going to focus on what I can do. And I've been focusing on it. And I'm not in no rush. I'm taking my time to take the weight down safely. But hey, I feel better. I'm sleeping better. I'm getting around good. And guess what? I'm putting myself on the hook. Because I'm telling you that I'm walking the talk. And I'm showing you that it can be done. That you can take what you got to get what you want. Stop looking at life through this limited lens. Start seeing the abundance. Start seeing the prosperity. Start seeing what will become when you start putting consistent, massive action into play. All right, that's my time for the day. Thank you for joining me on this inward journey. And you already know I'm going to leave you with persist, believe, and achieve.